You want to do the read-in, Nicole? This is your first time doing the read-in.
I know. Okay, I'm ready.
All right. Take a break. Take a little... Okay.
Welcome to Supercharged by AI, a podcast by AI Portland. I'm Nicole Moores, co-founder of AI Portland and product design manager at Driveway. I'm joined by my co-founder of AI Portland and partner at Cloud4, Megan Notarte.
You did it. Well done. That might be our best read-in ever, Nicole. Thank you. Thank you. You're really moving up in this podcasting world.
Starting to trust me more with her podcast, baby.
It's very good.
I work with people in tech that are the same. I have a lab manager for the Oregon Reality Lab, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, Donna, you're figuring out tech."
Yeah, you are in tech. I love this. That voice you hear is Donna Davis, our guest today, and we are always so excited to talk to Donna. Donna was on our Human in the Loop panel. And after hearing some of the things that Donna had to say, Nicole and I were like, we got to have her, just Donna, talking about all the things that she does. So maybe, Donna, you could tell us a little bit about your background and just help our 100 listeners. Before I used to say like 7, but we're moving up. We're moving up in the world. Help them know a little bit about you.
Sure. I am Donna Davis, and I'm on the faculty at the University of Oregon in Portland,
Go Ducks.
Go Ducks. Yes, thank you.
Go Ducks. Yeah, I'm a duck now.
I've always been I'm a gator duck. I came here from the University of Florida, and I need a jersey that says Florigan.
Love it.
During football season. But so I founded and direct the Oregon Reality Lab in Portland, and I founded and direct an immersive media communication master's program where we study all things XR. And so augmented and virtual reality, extended reality, AI as communications tools and platforms and strategies. I got into this because I'm one of those people who went back to graduate school as I became an empty nester, and ended up with a PhD when I was 50, and started career number 2 as an academic at that point here in Oregon. But my dissertation research, I studied avatars and virtual worlds and how you can actually create social capital and experiences and relationships with other digital beings. And of course, in those spaces, the avatars are always a human at a keyboard. And of course, now with AI, you just aren't really sure.
Yeah, what do you think that means for building social capital? You know, like, so if you're interacting with digital avatars that may or may not be human behind them, I guess.
I think it's such a crazy time because we're in a moment where media literacy is abominable, right? People really do not understand what they're engaging with. They don't know whether they're reading truth or mistruth, distruth, misinformation. AI and embodied agents, which are those beings in virtual environments that look like, instead of a chat bot, they can be in human form or any other form. And they are generative AI that can respond to you. But at the end of the day, it's even teaching in a graduate program, I have to be able to spot AI when I'm reading it because students are using it. People are using it in everything that we do right now. So I think it's trying to back up a little bit and say it's a bit about media literacy, understand what media you're in and how you're consuming it. There are things that I know we talked about at the panel, having a safe word, making sure that the person you are talking to that you know is a human. And the more amazing thing to me is how many of the AI influencers and AI beings that are designed as social companions say, "I am AI," almost always the first sentence. And you get past that first sentence and you leap right across the uncanny valley to the other side, and you have let the AI piece go out of your mind, out of your brain. So you're engaging with this being, not even thinking of it as digital or as artificial intelligence. It's you're just engaging with an entity that is speaking to you in a way that you've chosen to be spoken to, which is a little scary.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I'm scared. I feel like it's human nature to put humanity onto everything. Even when
Of
we
course.
know it is not human, contains like no it's just a machine, we still will attribute humanity to it. We do it
Right.
all the time with everything. I think
Of
it's
course.
core to who we are as like
Right.
beings.
Right. I remember, I mean, you think about it's parasocial interaction is the technical term, where you are interacting with something digital, but it feels as though an interaction that is real, that you are engaging with it. So even when we consume television, we cry, we laugh, you get involved with characters. We've been doing this forever. So you didn't need an animated immersive experience to go there. I mean, I remember crying when Odie got caught by the dog catcher in the Garfield cartoon, right? So we do these
Poor
things.
Odie.
I know, right? I was pregnant, so I had raging hormones. I'm going to use that as my excuse. But or many years ago, Target did this beautiful ad, or maybe it was IKEA, with a lamp that somebody put out as trash. And it was like the journey of the lamp that made you feel so sad for the lamp. And somebody came and went, oh, wow, look at this great lamp, and put it in their apartment, and it found new life. And it's like, we do exactly what you just said, Nicole. We create that sense of humanity, even with inanimate objects.
Yeah.
Are you guys saying like it's not that different? So with, computer generated bots that are embodied, and when you say embodied, you mean it like takes a human form, like human animated or human picture or whatever. You think that it's not that different than what we're already doing in lots of different ways?
To me, it's the same as we think about, and I had a PhD student that just finished doing this really brilliant project, but we think about, you read a book and it all comes to life in your mind. You create visual experience and content, which is why so many times we hear people, oh, the movie wasn't near as good as the book, because our imaginations were better and it didn't fit what we were expecting. But then we got television and we think, oh, wow, now I can really see it and experience and feel it, and big film, and then computers. And now with VR, you can dive into the screen, which makes it that much more real and more immersive. And if you've ever put on a VR headset and done an experience where something is flying at you, you will duck and your heart rate will go up. So it's the exact same experience of all of those other media. It just elevates the sensory role where it feels more real. It tricks our brains even more significantly, that makes it, you feel immersed and present in that space. I've told, go ahead.
I was going to say two things. I think we talked about this before about the VR headsets. So my kids love to watch me play because I literally lose my shit and freak out and flail around. And
Fruit
then
Ninja, you're talking about Fruit Ninja.
yeah,
Right?
or they had like a roller coaster thing that they put me on, and I literally was like, ah! They loved every minute of it. Now I forgot what my second thing was. So
oh no, sorry, I distracted you with Fruit Ninja. I wonder, AI. So you've been working in the metaverse, which is the sort of virtual worlds that exist online. And I think that's pretty niche for mainstream folks. Like not everyone has an Oculus or Apple Vision Pro or things that like make that a very immersive experience. But sort of the advent of AI's ability to be a companion or agent, maybe bringing that experience a little more to the mainstream. And do you see it that way?
Well, and as you say, it's not mainstream. However, you think about game spaces and virtual experiences that are in the gaming world, and there are more people who play video games, and those can be on a screen or it can be in a VR headset, than watch television, go to movies, or and maybe it's listen to radio combined.
Oh, wow.
So yeah,
Wow.
so
Gamers, man.
gamers, there's gazillions of them all around the globe that are online 24/7 in some place. And so it is so much more mainstream, and yet it stays under our radar. It's kind of this really crazy, funky space. So, and you think about Gen Z and Alpha. Oh my goodness, that's their native space. They're growing up in these environments with Roblox and Fortnite and Minecraft and.
Yeah.
So, so as we think about even the dangers of social, that as we let kids into social channels and all of the woes that we're starting to see there, everybody was always worried about game spaces, and yet game spaces almost feel safer because you expect people to not be real, right? They're there as an avatar and they're role playing. So it sets you up with a different mindset. And you're typically more cautious with the person you're gaming with until you get to know that person. And then you start to let those guards down. So, although children tend to just dive in,
Yeah.
no boundaries, no worries, no, it's never going to happen to me. But I do believe that we are already at mainstream. And I think AI is going to make it more mainstream for older generations, because I think the younger generations are already there. So, and we all spend time dealing with chatbots.
I just did today.
Yeah. They are so bad.
It wasn't that great.
No,
I eventually got to an actual, what I think is an actual person. I think it was a real person. Maybe.
I mean, I
it was
challenge
better.
you to even listen to radio and television, especially in ads, and see if you can hear AI. And you will once you start listening for it, because that voice will be just a little bit automated, and it's like fingers
It's so hard to tell now.
on AI, where the finger, you can always look at the fingers and know it's AI. That's getting better.
It's getting much better, though. I was listening to a pitch about a podcasting tool, and one of the things that they're releasing is the ability to replicate the host's voice with AI.
Of course, yeah.
And that makes a ton of sense, right? Like they have to record a lot of sponsored ads and things like that, and wouldn't it be great to just write the script and have a person that sounds like Megan or Nicole read it, because all the ads on our podcast, and they played the host in one of the ads, and I mean, you can tell, maybe it's getting,
you have to be
so
listening
good, and
right.
does not sound as flat as it used to. I think if I were just casually listening, I'd be like, okay, cool, that was Josh from the pitch reading that thing. It was just pretty easy.
Well, right. and I think that means that we won't be able to tell. That is the future. You won't be able to. The technology is going to advance.
Well, we've already heard about, and I know this was one of those fun words that came up in our panel, cloning, that you can voice clone. You only need about 10 seconds of your voice for them to be able to clone your voice now. And we're seeing people use those for very nefarious reasons. It's like, grandma, I'm in jail or I've been kidnapped or whatever. I need money now. It's an AI clone calling people. And that somebody went to all of the effort to figure that out and to understand identities and try to find the right people with the right clone. The right voice is a little terrifying. But then you've got, like you say, if it could clone the things I wish a clone could do for me, I need 3 of me, So there's reasons where, oh my gosh, that would be so nice if I could delegate that to the clone.
I find myself recently struck by how much of what's happening right now requires us to both see the good and the bad in really amazing and profound ways. And I think that's a really good example of being able to clone voices. There are so many good examples of how that is not a bad thing. Right. And
Right.
we like the commercial thing we just talked about, but from an accessibility standpoint, if somebody had lost their ability to speak
Right.
and could continue to communicate online or on their phone or whatever with their actual voice, like that is very profound. And then of course there's the shadow dark side of like deep fakes and, you know, trying to scam your family. Or I mean, there was a whole thing that happened in a school district back east where there was a tiff between two people and they did a recording of someone's voice, and it was, people figured it out, right?
Yeah.
Because there
Or
are other ways
Taylor.
of knowing whether it's someone or not, right?
Right.
But
Taylor
Again,
Swift. They did a
yeah.
clone of
Yeah.
Taylor Swift in a sex
Yeah.
video. That's
Yeah.
AI.
Again,
Yeah.
I feel like this is also humanity at work, right? Give
course.
us something beautiful and we will take it and make something really horrible and detrimental to mankind.
Yeah, it's both.
The internet, right? Amazing, wonderful thing, but also has the dark side as well, you know?
Right. That is humanity. And it's always been. I mean, we have, you know, the angels and the devils. I mean, the yin and the yang. It's always been part of our condition as human beings.
I just feel like even this, I've always known that, but I feel like in the last year with all this new technology and the speed at which it is coming to us, it just feels like you're constantly confronted with that. And then people are pulled into either side. And I don't want to be pulled into either side. So I'm constantly trying to hold both things. Like, yes, can be very bad. We should acknowledge that and do things to prevent those things from happening and educate people, but also can be very good. But it's not just all good and it's not just all bad. And you have to like hold both and just sit there and be like, this is uncomfortable.
Right. You're right. Well, and utopia is a concept that does not exist in reality, but we can dream about it. And but and I have worked in utopia because in some of these virtual worlds where you can control everything, as you said, with people with disabilities, as an example, I worked with a support group of people with Parkinson's disease for about 8 years, and they had a fully online support group in avatars. So we would sit in a living room every Thursday morning at 10 o'clock and talk what it meant to live with Parkinson's, and with people from all around the world who had Parkinson's, who didn't want to go to support groups in the physical world because, well, as an example, there was a woman who lived in a very, very remote rural place in the Western United States who had early onset. And she said she went to a support group and they were all old people with advanced Parkinson's. And it was so depressing. It made it worse for her. So instead, she could go to a support group and sit around with all these really beautiful, young, happy, healthy looking bodies who would talk about what it is to live in a body that doesn't like to move anymore, you know, and but in there they could go dancing and they could go horseback riding or ice skating they weren't trapped in their bodies. As a woman that started that was 84 when she started the support group. And at 90, several of us flew from all around the country to celebrate her 90th birthday with her. And we'd been in these group meetings every week for 8 years. And we were sitting together and it was like, oh, this is just like every Thursday morning. It was seamless. It was perfect. But one of the things that she said as I sat next to her in Southern California, she said, she pointed to the screen when she was logged in and she said, that's the real me, not the me trapped inside of this broken old body. She could experience and express herself in the way that her spirit wanted to be without somebody going, well, that's inappropriate behavior for a 90-year-old, you know, or that's inappropriate attire for a 90-year-old or a 65-year-old or, you know, it's like you're free of all of those expectations about the way we're supposed to behave. So, and as we loop back to, you know, the good, the bad, and the ugly of AI in that is that I think ultimately, being able to build relationships with AI, I want the AI companies to figure out how to make sure that they keep that dark side. How do you lock the dark side out?
Yeah.
You know, how do you lock the untruths out? And part of the problem in that, even as we think about, I work in a school of journalism and communication. So I've worked, you know, with media and journalism professionals my entire career and life. But it's, you think about a story. If you've ever been interviewed by a journalist, or people who go, I will never talk to the media, because they pull the sound bites that they want from what you say, and they piece it together to tell the story they want to tell, which might not have been remotely close to what you were trying to say. So we've seen our messages manipulated forever, whether that was in writing in a print newspaper. Again, all of these layers and evolution of media content that makes it look more real and more rich and more nuanced is all the things we used to do, but with new tools that that just amplify the experience and probably your reaction to that experience.
Yeah, yeah. You're talking about the AI companies and what they can do to kind of quelch the shadow side, but in our panel we were talking about how they can make affirmative decisions that help us be better humans too, like in the way that these tools are designed.
Absolutely.
And even, you're talking about in the metaverse, in the virtual world, like things that can be done so that it doesn't create addictive behavior, so that you never want to talk to other real humans in your own actual space, or help you cope with the fact that in the case of the Parkinson's patient, like with the fact that your body is your physical body is deteriorating in different ways, and not just provide simply escape from reality 100% of the time, I guess. And so there's so many things that they could do to help promote good behavior and, maybe disincentivize the bad things.
Maybe I'm going to a dark, weird place. No, I'm not even sure it's dark, but is there really a problem with someone being in the virtual space more time than the physical space? Right?
It depends.
I mean, have you seen Ready Player One?
Sure, there's science fiction, right?
Right,
And
right.
But we are leaning into what the science fiction writers, I mean, we're living it, right?
So
I mean, you think of the world where everyone's just in their tiny apartment with their headset and running on that thing.
But if they we're so bound to the flesh bags that we live in, right? And it's almost inhumane.
Right.
I'm not beyond the accessibility part, which I think is amazing and fantastic
So cool
thing to unlock for people. We're held back by all sorts of things, the way we just physically look.
Right.
Who we come in contact with, right?
Right.
Socioeconomic things that might
dress.
We can't get to certain places, the places we want to go,
Right.
So, and the fact that this could open up people's horizons and boundaries and really let them be the person who they feel like they are on the inside, right? I think is fantastic.
Well, it has the potential to be a miracle or totally destructive. And so it goes to the way I try to describe it when I speak about my work and international conferences is that I live in the Willamette Valley, where wine is one of our number one products, right? And I love a nice glass of red wine with my dinner. It doesn't mean I'm going to take the cork off and finish the bottle in that sitting, but I can have a nice glass of wine with dinner and be satisfied, versus an alcoholic who will finish the bottle and maybe open number two. So I think of these technologies almost in the exact same way, where if you create boundaries for yourself and you know where your risks are, and that you can find ways to protect yourself with those boundaries and risks, it can be an extraordinary experience. But I've interviewed thousands of people now in virtual worlds, and some of them, especially people with disabilities, are relegated to a room. And I was at an event one time where somebody was raising money for people with disabilities so they could have budgets to work with in this space. And one of them said, "Thank you so much. This means so much to me because I'm homebound." And another person piped up and said, "Homebound, I'm room bound." And a third person said, "Room bound, I'm bedbound. So imagine the people that can't leave their beds or cannot leave their rooms or cannot leave their homes. And I've had people argue, well, they should just try harder.
Oh, give me a break.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
maybe in some cases that's possible, but in most of these people's cases, it wasn't. So if you are bed or room bound, and when we think about AI companions, think about elderly people who are shut-ins, who can have a conversation with Alexa or these other social AI companions that are starting to pop up on the marketplace, where it's like, did I take my medicine yet today? Or when am I supposed, or it'll say, hey, it's time to take your medicine. As we age, those are really important things that if you don't have somebody in your home with you to remind you of those things, or even just to keep you company, at the end of the day, as human beings, we need each other. We need companionship. We need to be able to be hugged. That human touch is a need, physiological need for us as human beings. And so when your world locks that out for you, what most people shrivel up and perish. Loneliness. There's a great book called Loneliness that came out a couple of years ago that said loneliness. They said sitting is the new smoking, that we're all dying because we sit too much. And they would argue no, loneliness is really the most dangerous thing. And even when we live in potentially a city with 500,000 people, we tend to be lonely because we isolate ourselves in different ways. And COVID just amplified all of that, especially with remote work. So, there was a story a couple of months ago about an AI companion app that apparently the users, because it's generative AI, the users trained it and it became very sexual.
Yeah.
And basically porn.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so they had their companions became a companion of a different sort. And there was a trucker that counted on his AI girlfriend. And when the company realized that people had trained it down this path, they programmed it so that when somebody asked it to do something sexual, that just like if you have an AI tool in your home, whether it's Siri or Alexa or anything else, and you ask it something inappropriate, sometimes it'll respond with, I'm sorry, but I can't answer that. And we've seen stories from ChatGPT and from Google.
Guardrails.
Yeah, that where they'll go, I'm sorry, they've been programmed not to be inappropriate. And sometimes their response is inappropriate by trying to not be inappropriate in ridiculous ways. But they reprogrammed it so when a person were to ask it to do something explicit, the bot would say, I'm sorry, I can't do that. And this man was devastated. He felt like he'd been broken up with. He devastated. He was lost. But the irony is that ultimately, because this community raised up their voices in their fury and devastation, he met a woman who had done the same thing with a male bot that was on the other side of the country that was feeling equally devastated. And they found one another. It's like, okay, now you're humans. Go blossom,
That's so funny. I heard that story too, and I found it fascinating. And I was joking with Megan that I was totally going to ask you about virtual porn. I'm glad we got there. We had that
Leave
question.
it to me.
Yeah, we had that question at the panel about like, oh, are humans gonna cease to procreate, which is a ridiculous question. Of course, we're gonna procreate, but to me, I think like that's a public service. You know what I mean? That people can have an AI companion. To your point, physical touch, like. There could be any number of reasons why people cannot make that happen in the physical world, and having that available to people is, in my opinion, good for humanity.
Well, one of the things that I am reminded of with some frequency is and we talk a lot right now in the US culture about privilege. And as a white woman, I have privilege. And I think that some people ignore the privilege of having a healthy body, or
Mm-hmm.
they ignore the privilege of being raised in a loving home. Most people don't get that. And yet we are the voice of what we see as what's supposed to be normal about our culture. And nobody is really normal, but these concepts are normalized, and as a result, we have all of the issues around diversity, equity, and inclusion. So and as a woman of my age and weight, I deal with ageism, I deal with body shame, I deal with, all of those things that we do to people by their visual
Yeah.
appearances, and that people make assumptions. So one of the women I interviewed years ago was probably 350 pounds, and she had never been kissed. She was the fat girl, that nobody would date, that, all of these things. And we're better at it now than we were 20, 40 years ago, but we're still bad at it. So we think about those people that we have marginalized in our culture, who, if their only hope, that one of the women that was part of my study was an agoraphobe, and a middle-aged Black woman with a traumatic brain injury, who could not leave her home. But she had a very loving, meaningful relationship in a virtual world, and she'd never had children. And in this virtual world, and this is where it gets really weird, some people get totally creeped out by this, is that you can actually animate your avatar to get pregnant and go through childbirth. And then at the other side of it, you get a little, we call them pixel babies. It's a little tiny, it's a baby that's animated, that's a bot that is trained to interact with your avatar. It is AI. She now has, I think, 12 pixel babies. But when I interviewed her, she had 6. And I sat with her on her virtual beach and listened to her story, with the babies crawling around us and cooing and giggling and mommy, I love you, and all of these things that it's trained to do. And just like that moment where I said, we jumped the uncanny valley, I was sitting on the beach with a woman and her babies. It just felt very natural. And she told me she goes to bed at night with her computer on so she doesn't feel alone. She's with her babies. And some people would look at that as mental illness, or, it's just creepy, weird, horrible, yada, yada, yada. She says, I don't care what they think. I don't care what they say. This is my life, and I've never been happier. And what is it their business if I'm happy or not? So I just like, you go, girl, be happy. What does it take? And at the same time, we're so focused on what do we want for self-gratification, that we are also sacrificing the relationships that are in our immediate world, which is why I always say we've got to find that balance. You can use these to supplement, but not replace the relationships that are in our real world. You can't replace a virtual life for instead of a physical life. You will die. We need to eat, we need to interact, we need to work, we need to, all of those things that are, I love you said flesh bag, we call them meat puppets, that humans have to do the work. But at the same time, for so many of those people who have lived in the margins, it gives them an opportunity to find joy, to find love, to find happiness, to find productivity, because people will put them to work where in this world they would never have been given the opportunity by virtue of whatever their disability might be. If you take away all of that baggage,
Megan looks
amazing things can happen.
incredulous. She looks
I'm
incredulous.
not incredulous. It's just, it's a lot to sit with, because I guess I keep coming back to, like, what's the goal of humanity and civilization and society? right? Because like, yeah, there's one thing, but it really comes down to that, right? Because there's one thing about like people's individual happiness, right? And like super get that. And like, especially for people who, for different levels of privilege and are living on the margins, like having access to things that make them feel like whole and happy and experience joy, like all those things are really good. But I wonder about like the collective in all of
Right.
that. Like
Right.
humans are building a like we have towns and cities and like places where people interact in the physical space. And are like, is that just an artifact of the past? You know, like, because it seems important to like help people also engage in that community, like physical community with the people
Right.
around you in like
100%.
physical spaces. That also
Right.
seems important. So I'm not
100%.
incredulous. I'm just sitting with the like, that's really cool that for people who need that in many different ways, like they're able to get it. But it makes me worry about human culture
Of
and
course.
community, I guess.
Well, you
So-
think there are things like closed caption, right? That was designed to help people who were hearing impaired.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's a convenience for all of us,
I
right?
use it all the time.
I can't
Right,
watch
a
TV
ditto.
without it.
I watch TV
can't.
without it.
I
Same.
can't.
Right, right. So we think about those kinds of things that evolved to help support people that with disabilities. It now becomes a convenience for people that help them go beyond what their capacity is. And we're always doing that. The scariest part to me of what you just said is that at the end of the day, we still, as I go back to, we still need each other.
Yeah.
We still need, and this is where that balance comes. It's like for some people, their physical world is here. They need to have something that helps that lifts them up to where people without their challenges already are.
Yeah.
And
Levels
it's
the
the
playing
people that
field
are
in some
at that
way.
level that are using
Yeah.
it to escalate even higher.
Yeah.
That it's like, just make sure that you're keeping a balance, that you're not when I hear somebody using voice in a virtual world and I hear kids in the background and I hear a mother going, leave me alone, I'm on my game. I'm like, no, 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 no. Go tend to your children, please. And
Yeah.
it's so much more,
Mm.
it's more fun to be sitting here with my headset on or in front of my screen than dealing with these kids that are driving me nuts. It's like, no, they're driving you nuts. Maybe you need to put everything away and go give them the love that they're seeking. We all do this, even as we become 60 something. We need love. We need to be, we need affirmation. We need to be told we're good. We need to be told we're cared for. And
Yeah.
too many people never hear that anymore. So if you have to turn to AI to hear it, or you turn to a digital community to hear it, you know, maybe we need to just take a big pause and go, wait a minute, what about the people sitting next to me? When was the last time I told them that?
Yeah.
You know, or the people I work with, or the people in my neighborhood, or the people in my community. It's like, maybe we can use this as a time to remind ourselves that as good as this is, how do I take that and move it into my physical world instead of hiding from my physical world and fracturing my physical world because I want to go live in that bubble that only makes me happy.
Yeah,
Take the
that's kind of
load,
the
rest,
thing.
traveled, right?
Yeah, it's kind of the thing I was saying, like this can be designed and used in a way that promotes good human interaction or not.
Right.
So like if people who are on the margins or whatever, like can have their self-confidence built up, they feel like they have good interactions in these virtual worlds and that helps them interact with the people around them, I feel like cool. If
Yeah.
it means that like the person you're talking about never leaves her room because she's got her laptop on all the time with her pixel babies and things like that, like I don't know, is that good, is that bad? I don't know.
If she's
It's
the
definitely
happiest,
different.
If she's the happiest she's ever been, you know what I mean? Unhappy people go out into the universe and do terrible things. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
I also feel like trying to imagine how this affects the goals of civilization is like a thing that I mean, do we even have a goal of civilization? You know what I mean? We're just animals on the planet, hurtling through space. Um, this
I
is
mean,
just
we build towns, we build communities, we build neighborhoods. We have since
and
humans
we
could.
build also virtual dimensions that people
Yeah,
really love
yeah.
living in. You know, it's just another
Yeah.
part of the civilizations and worlds that we have built, you know, so far.
Well, you mentioned Ready Player One. There was a movie with Bruce Willis years ago called Surrogates. You know, they'd go sit in their chair, put on their headsets, and live these happy lives while the world around them was falling completely to pieces. And it's like, no, please unplug and go fix the world. And, or the most classic and popular is the whole Matrix series. At what point do we just plug into the Matrix?
Yeah.
Because it's easier. It makes me happy. I don't have to deal with all of you. Just give me my cocoon and let me be blissful. And sadly, I mean, we live in a culture where instant gratification is amplified, where, you know, all of these things that we see ourselves going into those bubbles by virtue of so many different complex pieces of our lives right now. It's like, how do you could peel away the layers of that onion and say, well, if I can fix this, this will get better. And if I can fix this will get, oh, it's too hard. Let me go plug in. You know, so it's like, how do we motivate people? Is it going to take an EMP where we can't plug in to go, oh, whoa, there's all this around me. I don't know. But in the meantime, I wish, as hard as the tech companies worked on creating content that would be addictive, how about we focus that energy on content that helps us find balance and take what we learn and do here and apply it to the physical relationships and world around us. And maybe AI, because AI can be directed, you know, why aren't we thinking about that right now in a way that makes us go, oh, I could save the world with this, you know?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I can save the world, not just plug in and let it crumble around me. I'm going to drop another Elon Musk reference for our podcast, which is like why he's looking at space so much, right? Is there's this theory that like billionaires just want to be able to leave when
they've
we
completely destroyed
completely
the planet.
destroy the planet. Yeah, that's 2 Elon Musks in our podcast history. Let's keep that we've hit our limit. We've hit our quota. Oh, now I'm just envisioning Nicole in her cocoon, like living her best life by herself in the Matrix.
No, you know me, I'm a true extrovert. Like I love connecting with people in person. Like I don't think I am necessarily like at risk for that, but I understand, you know, that's not everyone, right? I'm a big proponent of people doing what they want and like being true to themselves and having access to things that bring them joy, you know?
Yeah.
And I think sometimes in able to, you know, have that for folks, we have to hold the dark side too, right? With everything, there's risk, you know?
Right. And there's scholars who spend careers and lifetimes exploring all of this. And one of them is Sherry Turkle, who wrote a book called Alone Together, that basically said digital was going to do exactly what we're seeing right now, is that we're alone in a room. It's like if you're in a room and you look around and everybody's got earbuds and a phone, they're not paying any attention to you. They can't even hear you. So we are sitting in a room and we are alone and together. And then at the same time, you have people out there like Jane McGonigal, who wrote the book about how do we create games that save the world? You know, it's like take the energy and the enthusiasm and the excitement that happens in a video game where you're battling demons and the joy that comes from conquering and winning the game. How do we take that energy and enthusiasm and turn it into, all right, here's the real world problem we need you to solve, you know, and can we use games to change the world? And she believes so. And unfortunately, right now, it looks like the other people that believe so are the ones that are trying to destroy us. You know, they drop those little bombs in there and then we go, oh, look, this is the sky is falling. And we believe it. And they call it viral because it spreads like a
A
virus.
virus.
And it destroys like a virus. So how do we flip the switch so the things that are going viral are things that inspire people to make it do better things and to be better people and to be better stewards and to be better friends and companions and parents. And we could do that. We just have to be motivated to do that. And somebody needs to step up and take it on and embed it in the way we think, instead of thinking about what's the highest profit I can make by making people click this button more.
Totally.
I'm listening to you talk, Donna, and I'm like, ooh, there's two ways we can sum this up. One is, boy, capitalism is not helping us achieve those goals, right? Because companies are motivated by profit, not by doing the right thing for humans or for the environment or anything. And the other side of me is like, but imagine this world where people have access to things that they didn't have access to anymore. And if people are feeling more whole as people, then maybe they can enter society and interact with people and do good things for our communities and our neighborhoods in this physical space. Like, it gives them more access to that. And that is really, really cool. Again, holding to things at the same time.
Yep. You just define the human condition.
Right.
It's so funny how we get to this place time and time and time again. The technology advances. It does all these amazing things. And really what it does is just put a finer point on what it means to be human, you know?
So true. It really is.
It's hard. It's hard. And uncomfortable.
Right.
Oh, man.
And is it the road less traveled? The first line in it is life is hard.
Life is hard.
Life is hard.
Yeah.
That's why we should let people have their virtual babies.
Just don't sacrifice. I mean, there is a horrible
physical babies.
The horrible story that happened in Korea years ago is that a couple that went into this game, they have giant game spaces where people, like, instead of going to the bar, they go to the game bar. And this Korean couple who had virtual families and virtual babies binged for like 3 nights straight, forgetting that there was a baby at home in a crib. And that baby died. You know, so it's, to me, that's like the ultimate, there it is in a nutshell, the darkest, worst potential realized. So why aren't we learning from that and saying, oh, how do I use this? I should be loving that real baby. I should be loving that real husband or partner or wife, or it matters not. Just love each other. And the same with the same forgiveness and willingness to the uncanny valley. Give our partners the uncanny valley and commit to going, you know, I know it's hard and sometimes you're a little bit wacky, but we picked each other for a reason. How do we make this right? And
real relationships are so hard.
They are so hard.
And
but
like,
that's the thing.
It's just like, I can totally see the fucking drop, because it's just like, it takes a lot of work.
That's the risk, right? Is that we can create these worlds that don't challenge us in the way that regular people challenge us, that actually make us better, right? Like, I would say, and I think you would agree that like the challenges that you face in your life, like, they suck at the time, but afterwards you're often like, I wouldn't be the person that I am if I hadn't gone through that, or if that person didn't challenge me in that way. Like, it forced my edges a little bit, right? That I have to, like, I changed, and that's good. If we can create these worlds that like just cater to exactly how we want to be, like, I don't know if that is good for you. Like, having those collisions with other people and having those things that happen, like, that's part of the human experience too. Like, that's life. It's hard.
And that's why we're seeing some of the catastrophic experiences of children today, is that we do so much to protect our children from pain. That when they have to actually face it, they don't have the skills.
I just picked up a copy of The Anxious Generation. I haven't started it yet, but I'm really, as a parent right now, I'm like, oh, I got to read this.
They've
Yeah.
got to be able to navigate the pain and
Resiliency.
the challenge, right? Resiliency. Not everybody is born with it, but you can train it.
Develop it.
Yeah.
But if you don't have it and you're never forced to use it, you're not going to be okay when you hit adulthood and you have to go figure things out and you get fired, or it's like we're already seeing that a lot in the workplace with younger generation. I deserve to be the CEO.
There's a lot of entitlement. There's a lot of
inability.
Right
inability to take feedback, and like we hear stories about that all the time for sure.
Yep.
Well, Donna, thank you so much for talking to us again. I never know exactly where our conversations are going to go, but I always love the journey.
Yeah, your work is so fascinating. I personally could talk to you all day long.
Anytime.
Yeah.
I love talking about it. So thank you all for letting me share.
Thank you again for listening to this episode of Supercharged by AI. Subscribe to get all the latest episodes and check us out at aipdx.info for more information.